Hi boys, we're going to look at equations and formulas today, and we're also going to look at something called changing the subject. Now, what's different about a formula is it shows the relationship between variables. Now, here's a formula that you've seen before. This is the formula for the area of a circle. Okay, A is for area, pi you've seen before, and R is for the radius. So A equals pi r squared. This is a formula. Now, what we're going to be doing is substituting values into a given formula and then solving the equation. So let's have a look at the first example. The formula for the perimeter of a rectangle of length L and width W is given by this formula here. Perimeter is equal to twice the sum of the length and the width. Okay, so first question says we've got to find the perimeter, which is P, given the length is 20 and width is 9. Should be full stop there. So I'm just going to substitute into the given formula. Now the length is 20, the width is 9. That gives you P is equal to 2. Now 20 plus 9 is 29, so 2 times 29. So it gives me perimeter is 58, and that should be centimetres. Okay, that's a very easy one. Let's have a look at another one. Now, here it tells me I've got to find the width of the rectangle given the length is 12 and the perimeter is 70. So here's my formula again. So I'm just going to replace the length with 12 and the perimeter with 70. So that's 70 for the perimeter. The length I'm given is 12, and I've got to find the width. Okay, so we're going to use our normal equation techniques for this. So that's going to give me 70 equals, I'm just going to expand the brackets here. 2 times 12 is 24, and then 2 times positive W is 2W. Then I'm going to subtract 24 from both sides. Okay, that's going to give you 46 is equal to 2W. Now, we've got to get the W by itself. So we're going to, now there's a times there, don't forget. So divide by 2 for both sides, cancels, and you get 23 is equal to the width. So that's the answer. So I guess technically you should write down the units, 23 centimeters. Okay. Now, if you like, you can pause the video and have a go at this question. We'll call this our hashtag example. Okay. So here's our formula, 2L plus W. So we just substitute the given numbers. They tell us the width is 42, the perimeter is 1.8. Now just be careful here, centimeters and meters. We're going to have the same units here. So converting everything to centimeters, this will be 180 centimeters. And then I've got two brackets. The length is what I've got to find. The width is what I'm given. So L plus 42. And then expand the bracket. So 2 times L is 2L. 2 times 42 is 84. Right? And we're going to subtract 84 from both sides. Okay, that should give you 96 is equal to 2L. And then to get rid of the 2, you're going to have to divide by 2 and divide by 2. Cancel, cancel. So we've got 48. And that's equal to L. So I guess technically you should write the units in there. Length is 48 centimeters. So for the exercise on formulas, all you're doing is substituting values into the formula and then using your typical equation solving techniques to find out the value of the remaining pronumeral. Okay. All right, now let's have a look at something called changing the subject of the formula. Now, anytime you're given a formula, here's one here, the letter which is all by itself, so if you look at this, this is the letter V here by itself. The letter by itself is called the subject of the formula. Okay, so if I wrote down another formula, for example, y equals mx plus b, now the y is all by itself, so we call that the subject of the formula. So the y is the subject. Okay, so the letter by itself is called the subject. Now, what's called changing the subject? It means that we're going to rearrange the formula so that a different letter is by itself, which means a different letter will be the subject. So let's have a look at this question here. So the formula, I can tell I've made a typo here. Now the typo is just here. The formula is just V equals U plus AT. Okay, I'll fix that up in the PDF notes. Now the question says change the subject to A. So at the moment, V is the subject. We've got to change the subject so it's A. So that means I have to get rid of all the letters near the A, so the A is by itself. So let's see how we do that. So the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of the term by itself, which is the U. So I'm going to subtract U from both sides. That's going to give me V minus U is equal to AT. Now don't forget there's a times sign between the A and the T there. I'm trying to get the A by itself. So the next step will be to divide both sides by T. Now when you divide, you've got to divide the entire left-hand side by T there. And that means when you go to cancel, T's will cancel, and your final answer is just V minus U on T. Okay, so V minus U all divided by T is equal to A. So now the A is all by itself. So the A, we call that the subject of the formula because it's all by itself. All right. Let me just tidy up that little scribble there. That's just the letter V. Okay. So what I'd like you to do now is to have a go at question 2, the hashtag question. Okay, and again, that little bit shouldn't be there. So starting with V equals U plus AT. And we want to get the T by itself. So I'm going to do the same first step. Subtract U from both sides. And that's going to give me V is equal to AT. And then to get the T by itself, this time I'm going to divide by A. Oops, I just made an error there. Hang on. See that mistake? That should be, whoops, different color there. Yeah. Okay, so on here I should have V minus U, just like we did before. Okay, so that means when I divide by A, I'm dividing the entire side by A. All right, now the A's will cancel, and you're left with the T by itself, so you're just going to have V minus U on A is equal to T. So that's your answer. So let's have a look at next question. Question 3. Now here we've got to make B the subject of the formula. All right. Now at the moment X is the subject. I've got to make B the subject. Now I've got to get rid of the square root, and you know the opposite operation of square rooting is squaring. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, and let me just tidy out that formula again. Hang on. That should be the letter A. Okay, so I'm going to square both sides to get rid of the square root symbol. So square that, square that. Now the squaring will get rid of the square root. So that leaves me with x squared is equal to b squared minus 4ac. I'm trying to get the b by itself, so the next step is to get rid of the term next to the b squared, which is the minus 4ac. So I'm going to add 4ac to both sides. And that's going to give you x squared plus 4ac on the left-hand side. Minus 4ac plus 4ac is nothing. I've just got the b squared. Now I've got to get the b by itself, so I've got to do the opposite to squaring, to square rooting. So I'm going to square root both sides. Both sides. Now when you take the square root of something, it should be plus or minus that you're putting there. Okay, so your final answer will be plus or minus the square root of x squared plus 4ac is equal to, now the square root cancels out the square term b. So now we've got the b by itself there. Okay. All right, so you're going to copy that down and you're going to try the hashtag question. Okay, so let's write the formula down again. 2xy plus p squared. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is square both sides to get rid of the square root. So I'm trying to get the p by itself. Now that gives you k squared equals, and the square root's gone now because we've used the squaring process. Now I've got to get the p term by itself, so I've got to get rid of that 2xy. So I'm going to subtract 2xy both sides. Now that's going to give me k squared minus 2xy equals p squared. Now I'm almost there. I've got to get rid of the square term on the p. So I'm going to do the opposite of squaring, which is square rooting. And just be aware, when you do that, you must put the plus or minus symbol there. Okay, so your final answer then will be plus or minus the square root of k squared minus 2xy is equal to p. Okay, now by the way, the square root does not get rid of that power of 2 there because the other parts aren't squared either. So that's your final answer. Now, copy that down. Question 5. Now, question 5, we've got to make m the subject. P is the subject at the moment. So let's just write the formula down again. So you've got P is equal to, and that's going to be m minus 1 over m plus 1. Now, I want to get rid of the fraction part. So what I'm going to do is multiply by the denominator. The denominator is m plus 1. So I'm just going to put this in brackets. And I'm going to put the multiplication in line with the numerator. So multiplying both sides of the equation by the denominator. Okay, now the good thing about that is that allows me to cancel the denominator there. So now we have P, I'll write P at the front this time, P brackets m plus 1 is equal to m minus 1. Now I'm going to expand the brackets. So we get P m plus p equals m minus 1. Now, I want to get the m terms onto one side. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to eliminate some terms here. So a couple of ways I could do this. I could get rid of the p term, or I could get rid of the minus 1 term. So let's get rid of the minus 1 term. So you can add 1 to both sides. All right, that's going to give you p m plus p plus 1 equals m. Okay, now I want to get rid of the pm term so that I don't have m terms on both sides. So I'm going to do that now. So let's subtract that. So I'm going to minus pm to both sides. All right, so let's see what that gives us. So this is a harder question, of course. So we're going to have pm minus pm is nothing. So you've got p plus 1 on the left-hand side, and you've got m minus pm on the right-hand side. Now, the next step is to do some factorization. So this is p plus 1 equals. Now, the m is a common factor, so I'm going to take out the m, and that's m times 1 is m minus p. So I've factorized the right-hand side. Now, you can see I've only got one m term. Now, the final step, which I'll do just over here, so you've got p plus 1 on the left, and then you've got m 1 minus p on the right. Now, don't forget there's a multiplication between the brackets and the m here. So we're going to divide both sides, right? Both sides by 1 minus p over 1 minus p. Now, that cancels, and your final answer then is m equals p plus 1 on 1 minus p. So I'll just put that over here. So p plus 1 over 1 minus p is equal to m. Okay, so copy that down, and then I want you to have a go at this hashtag question just here. Okay. All right, so let's have a look. So for this question here, I'm going to first of all multiply both sides by the denominator, just like before. Now the question should actually say make A the subject, so I'll fix that up on the PDF notes as well. So what we're going to do is multiply by the denominator first. Okay, so I'm going to multiply by the denominator because I'm trying to make A the subject here. So times A minus 1. Now we cancel the A terms, and that gives me K brackets A minus 1 is equal to A plus 1. Now I'm going to expand the brackets. Ka minus K is equal to A plus 1. Now the next step is I want to get all the K terms on one side. Sorry, all the A terms on one side. So, and the way I'm going to do that is, in this case, we've got choices, but I'm going to add K to both sides here. So I want to get rid of the negatives. So if I add K to both sides, now that's going to give you K A equals A plus 1 plus K. Now, I don't want a terms on different sides. I actually want a terms on the same side. So I'm going to subtract a, which I could have done in the previous line from both sides. Okay, so I want to get all the a terms on one side. Now, let me just move over here a bit. So so this is going to be ka minus a here. So ka minus a. And a minus a is nothing, so that just leaves me with 1 plus k. Then I'm going to factorize. So a outside of k minus 1 is equal to 1 plus k. And then the last step of all, I'm going to divide by k minus 1. Okay, k minus 1. Now that will cancel just with that, and you get a equals 1 plus k over k minus 1 as your answer. Okay, so make sure you copied that down. Now let's just do one final bit here. When you get up to this step here, there is some choice involved. Okay, so I'm just going to go to, I'll insert another page here. So edit page, insert page. So ka minus k plus 1. So let's just say we had that step there, ka minus k plus 1. So we had ka minus k equals a plus 1. Now, there is some choice involved. Now, what did I do before? Let me just scroll down a bit. What did I do before? Ka minus k equals a plus 1. So the thing I added k to both sides, didn't I? Let's just move that page up for a little bit. So I'll move page up. That's better. Okay. Good. Okay, so ka minus k equals a plus 1. Now, I really want to get, you can see, I want to get the a by itself. So one thing you could have done is you could have subtracted, you could have got all the a terms on one side first. Right, so you would have got ka minus k is equal to 1. Okay, and I just want the a terms on one side, so I'm going to then add k to both sides. I'll try and straighten my writing up here, and then I'm going to have ka minus a is equal to 1 plus k, and then factorize. So a outside of k minus 1 is equal to 1 plus k, and then last of all divide through by k minus 1. Okay, so there is some choice involved in some of these steps. That cancels there. And I'll get the same answer as before. A equals 1 plus k, and I don't need the brackets on the bottom there. K minus 1. Right, so you can see that there. A equals 1 plus k over k minus 1. So there is some choice in some of the steps. So just be aware of that.